Have you had to adapt and overcome recently? Welcome to an episode of Shaun Shorts on the Always Another Game podcast. Thank you for everybody that's joining me today. I have an important topic coming from inside my mind where I share something from my sporting background and how that has been brought into personal development, business, or parenting. And today I want to talk to you about adapt and overcome. Now, this was something that I gained not from my sporting career, but post sporting career when I started to focus on personal development. And it was from a fantastic book called Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink and Leif Bain. They are former military men. I can't remember exactly what field they were in, but the whole book is about sharing their story of their time in Afghanistan and how that relates to what they do today within business. So they now go into businesses to fix problems. And quite often they are brought in by the leaders, by the owners of the company to fix an area, lower down the pecking order, maybe. And quite often they spend time with these people and find out that the problem is the leadership. The problem comes from the top and it works its way down. Now, that could be via communication, misalignment of values, just poor structures, anything like this. But they talk about adapting and overcoming quite a lot within the book and how that is used within war. Because you see, you could have the best plan in the world, but you have no idea what your opposition is going to do. You have to be ready at all times for things to go wrong. And if any of you did, pay attention to that particular war, you often heard about ambushes quite a lot. The US and British Army were in the other side of the world in unknown territory, but the Taliban, they knew the territory. Al Qaeda, they all knew the territory. So my knowledge on the war is not very high. I'm just kind of sharing the basis of it, but the whole adapt and overcome, when I started to read this and relate back to my sporting career, is we could train all week with the best game plan. We think we know that team that we're playing against, but we turn up and the player that had been injured for ages, who was their top player, who was meant to be out again, was back. That's massive in hockey. Their goaltender had been out or been playing poorly, but today was the day that he was going to turn it around and be the best. And if in sport, you're not prepared to change away from your game plan when you know it's not working, could leave you in a very downward spiral, not only within the game, but mentally afterwards, where players are losing trust within their coach, or the owners are losing trust within their coach, or the players vice versa. Because if we relate this now to life is chaotic and unpredictable. You think you know what's going to go on today, but realistically, we have no idea what we could be hit with. And it can change in an instant. Are you ready to adapt and overcome? Now, one thing that I've learned through this personal development journey, the Extreme Ownership book came from a podcast that completely changed my life, which was the MF CEO Project by Andy Frisella. But he talks about getting early wins, winning the day, but getting those early wins as early as possible so that if anything goes wrong in the rest of your day, you're okay. You've done it. You've taken a step forward to your goals. And that is the planning element, but it allows you breathing room to adapt where need be. Now, life example, when my youngest was a lot younger, there was a situation where we had to take him to hospital. And this was kind of an evening thing that we'd said, right, this, scenario, we needed to get him there and get him checked. And I was able to drop everything and go there stress-free and not worry about business or whether I'd got my steps in or whether I'd worked out or if I'd had my dinner. All of the early wins was executed in the day, within the morning, so that when it came to that time where I needed to adapt to be fully focused on my family at that point, I was able to do it stress-free and guilt-free. So planning is great and it is a useful strategy, but if you're stuck on plan A with maybe some people say backup plans are not worth it because then you don't trust your main plan. Well, in life, things work like that. You have to be either having backup plans or ready to think on your toes. We got told that a lot in sport. Be on your toes, be ready. Like, you don't know what that other team is going to do. You can assume they got, what they're going to do, but they could be a trick play. I've seen loads of teams throw out trick play. So planning is great. Getting early wins is great. These all help you, but sometimes even that doesn't go to plan. And just having the mental capacity, this is a lot what I work with a lot of my business leaders, is a lot of them are overwhelmed, overworked, burnt out. There's just no capacity in their brain to take on any other work. And if things get thrown at them, it becomes even more overwhelming, even more stressful. And, it then leads to being poorly or, health issues that they haven't been able to, that they struggle then to deal with. So I help them gain clarity and space by simplifying their process, which then when things do get tough, because they will, within business, within parenting, within life, things will get difficult. We all know that. We've all experienced it. But it gives you the opportunity to be ready to adapt straight away and continue to move forwards. Now, it might not be at the same pace, but it's better to move forward than regressing. We all know that. Nobody wants to regress in any process they're chasing. So this could be looked at in many ways. So parenting, you could get a call from your school to say, hopefully not, but your child is poorly. Can you come and pick them up? You've got to drop everything, right? You've got to adapt very quickly. Within business, you can have a few clients leave at the same time. I used to work in a film studio as a personal trainer for many years. And half of my business, if not more, was relying on what films were in that studio at the time. So if a film was in, I was fully booked. If a film wasn't in, I would be half booked. Now, there was a phase where I had more film clients than non-film clients, and one film left. It was a big film, so I lost most of my client base, but then no films came in to replace it for 3 months. I had to adapt quickly. Now, again, planning, saving, I used to do that for rainy day funds. I had that backup, but I had to adapt quickly to finding this next client base because there was no guarantee of when this next film was coming in. I didn't know it was going to be 3 months' time. That's just what happened. So I had to adapt on that spot quickly to keep my business alive, to keep my mental sanity alive. But I was able to do it because of the pressures that maybe had been applied on me through sport, to succeed, to take key penalty shots, to be in big game situations. It makes those other things a lot easier. Hence why exercise can be so fantastic, because it builds mental resilience. Life doesn't feel as bad after you've lifted 200 kg deadlift. I'll tell you that right now. So yeah, that was kind of the business side. And again, personal development side, I said, you just don't know. You wake up one day and you're poorly. You haven't slept very well. And you know that you're not going to perform the same way you would do as when you're fresh. And this is what a lot of people misunderstand about showing up. So, you're not feeling at your best. You've poorly slept, you're ill, whatever it might be. And you're like, well, yeah, but this is a day that I normally go and do high intense cardio in the gym. And I've got to go to 3 networking events today. Well, today might not be that day to do that. But how can I simplify this? Do I fill up for going for a walk? Could I do some stretching instead so that I'm showing up to the behavior, but I'm not putting myself in a negative position by trying to go too hard? The key takeaways from this is self-awareness, open to change, and trust. You've got to have the self-awareness to react to scenarios and not panic and stress on them. Remaining calm so that you can make better decisions, because most of the time the scenarios we're not in aren't life-threatening. If they are, then you've got to be reactive. But we have to be aware enough that we can say, right, today isn't the day for that, but let's do this. Or, okay, this isn't working. I've tried it. I can see the results. They're not working. So now I've got to be open to change. Self-awareness creates that, the option to change. Because sometimes we have to do something that makes us uncomfortable. And that can be, you can maybe get some tips via following somebody's content, by having a conversation. They say, hey, have you tried this style of content for your business? Have you given this a go? And then you can go on that. And then that's where the trust comes in, because you can trust that advice and test it and see if that generates a different return on results for you. So planning is great. I highly advise planning. I do it every night for the next day with my daily power list to help me win the day. And the aim of that task list is to get as many early wins as I possibly can. But I have to be open to things changing throughout the day. Okay, Wi-Fi going down, calls from the school, car breaks down. I've realized I've got no lunch and I have to go to the shop, which takes me out some of the time that I had planned for something else. Constantly thrown stuff. If we can reduce our overwhelm and stress levels on having to do that, we can start to see it as a success, as a win, rather than a negative approach, which then is a downward spiral. As we know, I've spoke about it a number of times. Negativity increases internal inflammation, causes more stress, and creates health problems. So hopefully you've taken something from that today. I would love to know if you've got me on any of the socials, if you see me post about this, how do you adapt and overcome to difficult scenarios? Even if you don't tell me, have a think about it today. Write it down. Think of a difficult scenario that you've come across recently. How did you deal with it? Do you feel like you dealt with it well? Do you feel like it could be improved? And if it could, what could you do to improve it for that the next time? This is a game changer. Okay. The whole podcast is a game changer of nuggets of information, not only from myself, from incredible athletes. And if you have taken anything away from today's episode, please leave me a review on Spotify or Apple Podcast, and please share the episode. It helps anybody that listens to it. And if it's helped you today, I've done my job. And if not, you can help somebody else by passing this on. Thank you, everybody, for joining me on Always Another Game podcast. And remember, there is always another game. Take care, everyone.